The controlled burn raid is almost over, and I want to go through a few build changes and or path changes to these targets, talk about the prizes that you should get and how you can save yourself a few million points by not redeeming specials you don't need, and a few other things. This should be a pretty exciting video, so go ahead and stick around to the end. I will try and link the sections I'm talking about when I'm going through the 1203 target versus the Wyvern build, the Excidium build, and the what to get section of this, so make sure you check out some of that, all the topics in the video, because it should be a pretty informative one. Let's start with the Wyvern targets, and specifically the 1203. I do have a little bit of an updated path, thanks to Kim K for some of the inspiration on this one. And the goal of this is to have a generally low repair. This is 4 hours, 26 minutes to start. And we're going to run through this thing for as quick as possible, as low damage as possible, how I've been hitting this basically every time. What you want to do is come in at the bottom right and then take out the first turret cluster by stopping outside the range of the minimum range turret. Once this is dead, you can go ahead and wait till the yellow snow or the piss missile is out of the way, and then you can blitz through the first turret cluster here. If you do stop or stay too long here, the red thing will fire. Don't worry about that as long as you stay moving and hopefully dodge that short range turret. I do go more in depth on every specific damage type on this target, the turrets, what they're doing, and how to avoid those in the dedicated 1203 target video, which has a little bit of a different path, but the general strategies and stuff should be the same. This is just to show you how I've been able to get the target down after doing, 20, 40, 60 of them, whatever, to a very high speed target. This is a pretty different path actually than the one that I was shown. It does use the same setup, but I have found that I can basically bull rush in right here and take advantage of some of the dead zones between the mines, which I'm in a safe spot right now, as well as the giant red cannon, which is not shooting at me currently because I'm inside the dead zone that I cleared out earlier by hitting some of the rest of the target. So this makes the target very, very quick to complete. I'm less than 1 minute into the, or just over 1 minute into the target, and it's basically dead and basically cleared out, which I'm very happy about. Short time to complete the target is what I'm going for when I need to do 20, 40, 60 of these things in the raid. Once that main section is down, you can come back and it's just cleanup at this point. I know where the firing arcs are, so I'm generally driving pretty fast and jumping around these guys, because again, it's almost muscle memory, and the TLC will be very easy by the time I do this thing 20, 40, 60 times. I generally find the Wyvern targets to be pretty fun. Once you get the pathing down, cracking the target is, to me, the most exciting element of it here, and continuing to do the same thing is actually pretty decent. These are generally pretty fun targets, generally pretty rewarding. You can't auto the 1203, but you can auto the 1202. The Wyvern targets get a pass from me. The mechanics of this are different than other stuff, and they're fun enough that I like these targets. I'm not going to show you the 1202 because it's just autoing for like 30 minutes repair. And this right here was, I think, 8 minutes damage. I said it was I guess it was 426, so that's a 22-minute damage target with going over the yellow snow on some of it. So Wyvern targets get a pass. Let's take a look at the build for the Wyvern and if I'm doing any updates and or changes to this one. I do want to discuss what officers you should be using with this guy, so we'll come back to that in just a second. I'm also going to go over at the end of the video, if I didn't mention, my overall raid performance, show you how this raid compared to others with number of active players, and a bunch of other cool charts and graphs and stuff like that. So taking a look at the build for the Wyvern, I'm not changing it from what I showed earlier. I have a bunch of weapons. Some of these are not even limited ones, they're common, so that doesn't really matter. All D5 EV armor. I really like the combat speed that this provides. I could look at Streamline Cadmium, but I think Evade is also equally important due to the fact that you want to make sure you are never shockwaved on in this target. For that reason, I run Sea Serpent's Crew, All Evade Armor GS3, as well as the Evade Officer. So what officers should you be running on this ship? Well, the best one, of course, is the captain, and let's actually go ahead and pull up the release notes with some of this stuff, and we'll look at a few of these interesting things here. So the release notes from the November raid have these stats and stuff for, I guess the October raid, have the stats for these officers. The captain is the best, and this is the Captain Lucian, and this gives you, at legendary, damage, evade, combat speed, reload. Use this one if you have it. It can only go in the first slot, not the second slot. So use the captain, whatever level, if you have it, use that over anyone else. The Dreadnought Science Officer here, the Galen, gives you survival. This is not very useful, to be honest with you, because once you are at 3 million survival, adding on 170k is not that great. You can actually prove this scientifically, mathematically, by saying, if I have 3.6 million survival and I add 170k, my damage is only reduced by about 5%, which is great. A 5% guaranteed damage reduction is good, I'll take it, but not the end of the world. The more survival you have, the less any additional amount matters, and we already have such high base amounts on there. Going from 0 to 170 is a big difference, but going from 3.6 million to 3.6 million plus 170k, again, less than 5% difference. It's useful, and it 100% applies without needing to worry about luck or something like that, but again, this is my last choice for an officer. The navigation officer here, the evade one, is my second choice. I would use the captain first and the evade one second, and again, that is just to make sure you are never shockwave on, because the shockwaves do such a massive amount of damage in these targets. Having 10% evade reduces the damage from all accuracy based stuff by essentially 10%, but maybe even more than that, because it means you're never shockwaved on. And then my third choice, the one that you should use when you unlock E9 and E10. By the way, does this look like AI art to anyone else? It kind of does to me. The third choice one is the damage one. This will help you kill things more quickly. That's fantastic. It gets through the turret clusters. Maybe you don't have to stop or pause as long. Maybe something doesn't get a second volley off. More damage is great and more useful for a time to complete the target compared to, say, the survival. So that's the quick note on the officers and the Wyvern build. Just jumping back to this one, I'm not changing anything. I do have, I believe, an escalation special on came out. The Frostvein Injector is new as of the strike rate, I'm pretty sure. If not, the old one is like very similar to this one and was 70% radioactive damage and 90% building damage, if I recall correctly. So this is a slight escalation, but nothing crazy. Now, my particular setup I'm running right now does mean I can kill like one turret cluster in one volley, which is very, very nice. If you don't have that, I would kind of consider it. The other note is that if you do decide to use the damage armor, I would strongly consider the Bonesaw armor. The one that is, it would give 4% damage while is giving a lower survival number. The lower tier armor, which is actually available in the Forsaken mission when that comes back next week, you should look at that instead of the armor that came out with this ship. You probably have legendary Bonesaw armor already, and it does more damage with less survival. But as I discussed, and I did highlight that in a previous video, the survival doesn't really matter when you already have like 3.6 million survival or 3 million survival. Adding on 20k, 40k, again, is like not great. And look at that 90% evade before the alliance bonus, before the crew. So that's pretty good. Okay, that's enough with the Wyvern. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Excidium, which has 4 hours and 40 minutes repair. I have autoed 102s. I get about 1 hour damage, so I don't actually like doing that. What I'm going to do instead is drive through a 103. And again, I already have a video on this one. This is just a what is the path I'm using at the end of the raid, which compared to the Wyvern is not like the best path. It is what is the quickest path to complete the target. So that's what I want you to focus on. How fun is this to drive? I'm also going to talk about the weapon that comes out, the torpedoes that give you speed bonuses, and talk about how you want to make sure to use to accelerate through the tip of that. So just enter and you can hit this first cluster of ships, basically stay moving the entire time. To get the target done most quickly, you need to actually loop through and trigger all of the citadels and the gambit in the center of the target. You need to do that to get all the ships from the outside moving in towards you. and I'd kind of like to enter on the left side, barely grazing the tip of that there. You really need to make sure you're using the tip to the most effect. You want to make sure that you are skimming around the outside, not getting surrounded by a bunch of things at once. I have 3 countermeasure ships, which I'm very happy I made that decision, which means that these torpedo ships, when you're only engaging one cluster, or even the Spectres, you can actually destroy all of the torpedoes if you're moving away from them with 3 countermeasure ships. Now, as you're noticing this this shape here of these yellow dots left on the map, that can be useful. You really can use this shape to help boost yourself around and hit the Gambit, hit the Spectres, and run away from them. Right here, I'm being hit by about 3 things at once, which is not great driving, but it is good for killing the target more quickly. I'm again using those 2 base circles and then the 3 extending out in a line like a shaft to accelerate around the target very quickly, so I can trigger all of the enemy ships coming on from the outside. Then I can loop back and graze the tip again. I'm kind of wondering why Kixeye made it look like this. It's kind of suggestive, don't you think, with those 2 big circles at the bottom and some others extending upward? I guess I wouldn't really have picked that exact design. My fleet died, by the way, so this is just 1 ship left here, but I'm less than 2 minutes into the target and it's already done, with even 1 ship doing enough splash to take down the rest of these things. So that's how I usually do the target, and you can see I'm missing the tip here. What happened? That's kind of crazy. My point is that I like these targets, even if I'm being a little bit facetious. They're fun to drive, they're very quick. The unfortunate thing is you have to drive all of them. The 102 is not very auto-friendly, but it's very quick to complete. This is a super fun, super fast ship to drive, where you can zoom around in a bunch of circles and use that special ability, which does look a little silly and is kind of not the best because it ends up behind you half the time. But you can zoom around, it feels like you're dodging damage, it feels like you can use a ton of splash and kill things very, very quickly. So overall, the Excidium targets do get a pass from me. The one note is that I wish they were more auto-friendly, but I suppose they're fun enough to drive, it doesn't really matter. Okay, here's the build before I talk about the specials that you want to use and change from the raid. I have 3 countermeasure ships, all built like this one, of course, with different rarities and stuff. I do have legendary heavy weapons on everything, so I don't need to ever open another heavy weapon chest ever again. And I have 2 damage ships built the same way the flag is. It doesn't matter which ones are which for this particular raid series. All D5 EV armor on here. I'm using the multi-click trick to place these into the heavy armor slots. What you want to do is place this into a standard slot, multi-click it into the heavies, and this is really just on here for the combat speed, nothing else. And I'm using 2 damage ships, 3 countermeasure. I would not change that. I'm very, very happy with this one. These are all at X1, and the combat speed boost from X1 did make a pretty substantial I guess, decrease in my repair time and an increase in my enjoyment, decrease in the time to complete the actual target. So this is the, like I mentioned, pre-change for the Excidium build, because there is a change to this one based on the raid prizes. What I want to do to talk about this is show you this new special, which is the Eradication Fear, and I'm going to redeem 2 of these. If you're playing along at home, the number you redeem is going to depend on how many damage or countermeasure ships you have. Now, I'm redeeming 2 of these because this gives you rocket reload and explosive damage. I had thought that this might be a replacement for cluster warheads. Unfortunately, it's not. It's a replacement for Warhead Reloader. Now, Warhead Reloader is on a number of my ships here, just the damage ones actually, and it does 25% explosive damage and 150% explosive reload. The one I just redeemed, I think it was the, I guess I kind of forgot what it was called already. That new special gives you 10% better than each of these ones, so it's better than Warhead Reloader, and it can stack with Cluster Warheads 3. But the question I had, and actually I did some spreadsheet math earlier, on the countermeasure ships, I am dropping Warhead Reloader. I don't have this on there, so I could replace Cluster Warheads 3 with it. The question is that worth it? So to answer that question, let's go ahead and pull up a little bit of a brief spreadsheet. And what this shows you is I've got one build on the left here, which has Cluster Warheads 3, and that results in 421% rocket reload. Again, this is the countermeasure ship only, because on the damaged ones, it's a direct escalation. It's strictly better than Warhead Reloader. But the question is, I'm comparing the Cluster Warheads 3 against Warhead Reloader. I have I guess, a lower damage and a higher reload percentage on ship 1, which actually results in a cycle time above 0.2, which is minimum. And then the second ship has a higher base damage and a lower rocket reload. But the end result is that the damage per second is like 50% higher on the ship that has the more reload, just because having the cycle time down to almost cut in half means that you're doing just so much more damage per second by having more reload. So I'm only going to use this new special on my damage ships, and I'm not using this one on my countermeasure ships. So I just saved myself 4.5 million points, and maybe you the same, maybe you 3 million, whatever, by only putting this on my damage ships. And of course, I'm going to do that upgrade, I guess that refit, with tokens that I'll get in the TLC if I didn't have any extra right now, which I definitely do, because I guess I just have a lot of build tokens, not upgrade tokens, for the Excidium. So that's the recap on the Excidium. I do think that the Silent Hunter's crew is probably the best one to run with this ship, even though I've been using the Steelheads most often on auto, or the Sea Serpents when I'm driving. Okay, the next section is the what to get, what you should redeem from the raid, and what's important. The skins is one option. These are 20 million points for 2.5% extra damage. I'm not doing this because I don't have 20 million points to burn, and I think that's silly. The crews are possible, again, if you have holes that you want to, or points that you want to burn. If you've got 200 million points, then go ahead and get these. I don't like these, the concept of having to pay 5 million points to get a crew to put on my Wyvern, so the next 5 million points is easier to get. That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe you want to save 1 or 2 and redeem it for price pack 3 of the TLC for these ships that come around. This is also going to be a very powerful PvP crew, because it gives you 30% defense and 30% of splash, even if the favored stuff doesn't work. Eradication feeder, we mentioned, you only want to get like to the number of damage ships that you have. You do want to make sure that you get the capital cores and then the regular ship cores for your Excidiums. There is no other place to really get these that works out with timing. Make sure you redeem enough to upgrade your ships. You probably have enough upgrade kits to get to X1 based on the TLCs if you've been doing these and you already started at a pretty high upgrade level. If not, consider these ones. In terms of tokens, this is where things can get interesting. I do really wish they would add some kind of search bar to this, because it's very difficult to navigate, even if you check hide owned. There is a 2-day structure build token. Don't forget about this one if you are up to date with your, or want to be up to date with your base defense. You should consider the Wyvern evolution tokens. Even if you are maxed out, you should get these, because Wyvern is going to come out with an E9 and E10. Me getting 5 of these when my ship's already at E8 will mean that I can get it up to, say, E10 basically for free. There are also, and I have actually redeemed, which is, again, super difficult to show you, Arc Excidium upgrade tokens to max out on that, and Excidium upgrade tokens. I was hoping to get a ship up to cap. I couldn't do it because I don't have enough of these. I had to use it to get the last one up to X1, but you should max out on these so that you can start an upgrade after your raid is over. And again, don't forget that these exist. That'll be very useful. The other thing that you will want to do is get enough upgrade kits to get your I guess evolution fragments to get your Wyvern upgraded. Now, I've redeemed 3, and I have 17 left, 17 times 5, left that I could do. But if I go over to my ship, my Wyvern, it is at the maximum level currently for the game, so I can't see how many fragments I have in inventory. I happen to know, because I think at least I know, that I got the minimum required to upgrade this to EA8, so I think I have 0 in inventory. It is asinine that Kixeye has no way for you to see how many you have in your inventory, and I would highly encourage everyone to go to the support widget, click on this, and start typing in things, keep sending messages. By the way, it auto-closes if you spend too long typing, so you need to like type it somewhere else and then copy and paste it in there. A message asking Kixeye to check and tell you how many Wyvern upgrade fragments you have. So I'll actually go ahead and do this. And you know, it's very difficult to actually make a ticket because I guess it's not missing content or rewards, but I can't actually see how many I have. I'm just going to click buttons like claimed a prize, didn't get it. I guess that's close. Yes, I need assistance in finding the items. Hello. Can you please tell me how many Wyvern evolution fragments I have on my account? There is no way to see this in game, and I need to know how many I have in order to redeem the correct amount. So that's the kind of thing you have to do to figure out how many of these fragments you have. You'll have to hope that player support answers you within a few hours, or prize redemption could be over. But back to the what to get, I kind of covered most of the stuff here. There's a few PvP things that kind of could be considered, but I'm not going to talk about those too much. You could also get some of the enhancement chests. I did show you that I was maxed out on my heavy weapons, for instance, for my non-dreadnought, my standard skirmish ship, the Excidium, but I do need more officer enhancement chests because I don't have very good officers. You could also consider the Wyvern's Heart CIC enchantment chest because there are, and you can see here, I have 2 CICs on here. There's a 3rd level that unlocks with either E9 or E10, so you will want to make sure you are opening these so you continue to have some of these. This is also one that it may be impossible to max out and get legendary on unless you open every single one of these, so that could be a very important one to open. If I open 2 of those CIC chests and I get both legendary, then I'll be done. I don't think that will happen, but let's actually just go ahead and try it. Let's open 2, see what we get. If we don't get a 2 legendary on here, we'll open another one, and we'll open some raid chests too. Okay, so opening these 2 chests, we got 1 legendary, 1 epic. That means that I can have 2 legendary and 1 epic on my fleet right now. But I do want that 3rd legendary on there in the event that it does unlock with the next dreadnought level. So let's open here, and we'll come back open him later. I don't want to waste points on any of the older stuff. That's something you should almost never do. There is the Frostvein Injector, the escalation special for the Wyvern. If you didn't get it in Strike, it is here. But I'm going to get some more officer chests and probably get a few more points. And we'll discuss how many points I got in just a few minutes here. Oh, build tokens for the Arc Excidium. That could be nice if you need to do refits, if you don't have all the armor on here, so make sure you don't forget about him. I don't know why that's in whole store, but it is, so, yeah, thanks, Kixeye. Okay, now let's do a chest opening party. I have a bunch of per second mission chests saved up. Okay, another epic that doesn't do me any good. Approaching Armada chests, 11 of those. I open 11 and I get all event points. That's kind of disappointing. Excidium token chests, if I try and open him, I am full of Excidium Build and Upgrade. It's a 6-hour upgrade and I'm done building, so I don't really care. If I max out on these, I might lose 6 hours, which is fine, but I'm more worried about the repair tokens, which at this point I would max out on, so I'm actually going to save these and open him either tomorrow morning as I finish my raid, or in the TLC when I actually need some repair tokens. And here's another one, 13 chests. I got 2 or 3 token chests out of this one. That's like a 1/3 or 1/4 drop rate. That's pretty nice. Officer chests, let's open 2 up and hope for something good. We got the Munitions Officer Rhea, the rare one, which is the Damage Officer. I could probably combine 3 of these rare ones into an epic one if I had it, which I don't actually think I do, so I'll have to get some more points to redeem some of that. And that's all the chest opening party. Now we get to answer the question of how well did I do in the raid. Taking a look at the leaderboards on my main account, and keeping in mind it is, let's say, the night before the raid actually ends, there's some wiggle room here, I got 72 million points and placed at 1300, which means I'm almost top 1,000, 72 million points. Taking a look at, let's say, my mini account, which is called Orange Jellyfish. I used to troll on forums, by the way, with this. I don't know if anyone ever noticed that. Only 5,700 players got basically any points in the raid, which is not a whole lot. But how does this compare to previous raids, and what's the trend look like? Well, penciling those numbers in on my spreadsheet and taking a look at the graphs means that the alt is kind of continuing a steady trend downward of there are fewer players participating in raids, even compared to a few months ago. So if we look at December of 2025, which was the start of this year, the player base is dropped by maybe 20%, which is quite a significant drop in 1 year. I'm curious if the 3-month raid cycles had anything to do with this. And then the chart that is more interesting to look at is the My Leaderboard rank by month, where the size of the bubble indicates the number of points. And what you can see here is that I got 68 million, which is a relatively small, I guess 71 million here, which is a relatively small circle. And I would expect small circles to be higher up and large circles to be lower down. And what you can see is that I am falling about the same as the other times I got close to 71 million points, which means out of the top, say, 1,000, 2,000 players, things seem to be pretty consistent. There's not a lot of motion. If this small circle was way lower down, it would mean there were fewer top active players in the raid. The last resource I want to show you here is the upgrade times document. This is available in the description of all my YouTube videos. You can look at this, you can screenshot this. This shows you the upgrade times and fragments required for everything. So if you want to redeem enough fragments to get your Wyvern up to E9 and E10 right now, you should redeem 350 fragments, which is an absolute insane, crazy amount. And it also happens to be the, I guess, not quite the amount that I can redeem right now. We will have to wait for Strike to actually redeem some of this, but the good news is if you get tokens now, you don't have the time impact, even though it is going to take you about 8 days. You have maybe 5 days of tokens for it, so it will only take you 3 days if you actually redeem the tokens and stuff for that now. So that was a long video. I talked about a ton of stuff. If you do have any questions, go ahead and let me know in the comment section down below, and I'll do my best to get back to you. I want to give a huge shout out to the channel members whose names are appearing on the end screen now. They're helping make videos like this one, the 5th one of this raid, the 5th one this week possible. If the value that I bring to you by making these videos is worth to you $2 a month, click the join button below the YouTube video to have your name added to the end screen. With that said, and until next time, this is Derpy signing out, helping you be a better pirate.